This is a video on 11-2 on how to do the test for independence on your TI-83, TI-84. So before we start a test for independence, we need to locate the matrix button, and then it should be on top of that x to the power of -1. I hope you can see where I'm pointing. You go second, matrix, and go over to edit, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to input the observed matrix. The matrix has dimensions. The dimension is always row by column. So you count how many rows you have. Those are your hospital. Hospital A, hospital B, hospital C. So that's where you put in 3 over. So you'll see a row being created. And I have infections. So surgical site, that's 1. Pneumonic infections, that's 2. And the bloodstream infections, that's 3. So it is a 3 by 3 matrix. And all you're doing at this point is typing all of them in. The first hospital had 41, 27, and 51. The second hospital had 36, 3, and 40. And the last hospital had 169, 106, and 109. Now, having that 106 right next to the 3, that tells me that we'll probably end up rejecting the null hypothesis because the numbers are just too large. And with that said, I'm going to quit that menu, push stats, go over to test. I will go up because your chi-square test should be somewhere on the bottom. So on my calculator, it's under C. All it's asking is, where is the observed matrix? By default, it's going to be A. And the expected, again, by default, is going to be calculated in B. So you don't actually need to enter the expected matrix. It is going to be calculated for you. There's nothing else that you need to enter. All you have to do is push calculate. What it's going to spit out, it's going to spit out 3 pieces of information that are necessary in order to complete this hypothesis test. It's going to give you the chi-square test statistic. It's going to give you the p-value that you can compare to alpha, and it's going to give you the degree of freedom that column -1 times row -1. As far as running the test, both TI-83 and TI-84 have that, and as long as you can find the matrix button, it's all right there. Now, if you notice, if you go back to your matrix, you now have a B. And if you go over to edit and click on that B, it'll actually show you what the expected matrix is. So it's going to calculate it for you. It does do calculations to 5 significant digits, unlike a calculator that only has 2 or 3. I'm sorry, unlike the book that only has 2 or 3 significant digits, we're going to be using 5. We are not interested in integers. So the expected matrix, even though we are talking about number of people with a certain infection, the expected matrix most likely will be decimal places, which are necessary in order to complete full calculations on a statistical level. So math doesn't care about that. There is one assumption of any of the chi-square tests. The expected shouldn't be anything lower than a 5. So when you're taking a look at that matrix B, make sure that none of the numbers are smaller than 5. Otherwise, we just don't have enough entries. The n is not large enough in order to run the test. Looking at this one, they do seem to be at least 2 or 3 digits, 2 or 3 digit numbers. So I think we're okay with this. On the next video, I will go over the example of the proportion homogeneity.